Hello, Sue and Neil of Netherton Foundry. It's very nice for you to join us at the Servit Fourth Food History
Hi there.
Festival.
Hello. Hello.
Hi.
Welcome. We were very pleased when you agreed to sponsor our event because Sam and I, well, all four of us are really big fans of your stuff.
Oh, very kind of you to say that.
I thought I would ask, because I'm always really interested in this. It's quite a big question, really. But what prompted you to start Netherton Foundry, producing all these amazing spun iron and copper cooking equipment? Is quite a decision to make. So how did you arrive at the decision of saying, I'm going to start up this unique
Well, there wasn't
business?
a single starting point. It wasn't that. It grew. I've been designing cookware for lots of very important cookware companies over the years, who were multinational companies all around the world. But about 30 years ago, we started getting quite concerned about the materials that we were seeing things being made from. I was working in the Far East quite a bit with multinational American and German companies. We were all trying to make good cookware. But we noticed over the years, everything seemed to get a little bit thinner and a little bit shinier, and started getting coated in materials that we weren't always too sure how good they were. And the more I started looking into this, particularly the things that were non-stick PTFE coatings, the more concerned we became. And I think this culminated in one trip where I was in a place in southern China with a good friend of mine who was an engineer in a factory there. And he actually said, let's not hang around the coating plant for too long. It doesn't seem to be too healthy for the people who work in here. And that was really quite an eye-opener. And I started looking with Sue at all of these non-stick materials, and we became quite concerned about that. For our own personal point of view, we threw away all our old-fashioned non-stick, our non-stick pans. I think initially we started using our wedding present cast iron pans from famous French manufacturers, which are great products. But we'd always made things ourselves a bit, because we were designing products for other people. We made a lot of prototypes and things, and we started looking at those and saying, this is what we need. And in fact, as we discussed this with our friends, we started making the first samples. They were products that we were using. We made the first pans for ourselves. And that's actually how Netherton came about. And in fact, I've got one around here. That's probably one of the first 8-inch pans we ever made. And you say, did we ever think it would become quite what Netherton is now? I'm not sure we did. I think that this shows how little I know about pans at the time. Well, how much I knew about pans at the time. I thought if we did an 8-inch pan, that's got 8 inches across there, a 10-inch and possibly a 12-inch, that's all anybody's ever going to need. Nobody's ever going to need any more than that. At last count, I think we're about 170 variants now. Okay, wow. So we're about 170. But anyway, that's if that's not the first pan, it's the second or third. I don't know. It's very early on, and we still use it. It's a frying pan, and it barely changed in design.
I was about to say, that doesn't look like it's changed.
It looks exactly the same. We probably make it slightly better than we did in the early days, but functionally, the pan is much the same. I mean, our company's been running since 1996. Okay, wow. But the range that you know now, the Netherton range you can see, really, it's things which we started from about 2011 onwards. Okay, and that's really when spun iron for us became the really important thing.
Right. What is spun iron? I know what cast iron is, I think.
Yeah, the material in spun iron is essentially a low carbon material. It's pretty similar. Chemically, it's pretty similar to cast iron. The difference is we get it in a malleable sheet form, and we put it on our 1920s spinning machines. I have 3 1920s spinning machines, which are I love them more than my children. They're beautiful.
Quite right.
They're more reliable.
They're more reliable. Yeah, they're more reliable. Okay. Which I've acquired. I begged and borrowed them over the years, and they're actually made in Birmingham in 90. I think one is 1920, two in 1922. Made by a company called Wilson's. And if you can imagine enormous big wood lathes, but really enormous, really big, heavy cast iron things. And we put this sheet, these circular pieces, we cut circles of this flat sheet iron, mounted onto the lathe, and then by hand, we shape the pans around a former. Now, this is quite a skilled art. I can spin simple things. I have 2 really skilled craftsmen who, one is touching 70 and the other's touching 60, and they are now teaching my youngsters in their 30s, and our latest young guy is just 17.
Oh, just brilliant.
Good.
This is very, very important, because we won't have a business if we don't pass these skills on. But I think what you can say is we are essentially making a frying pan, an 1890s frying pan. We're using the same materials, the same processes, and this isn't a bad thing. This is a good thing.
And actually, if you go onto the website, you can see them being made. We've put some little videos up to demonstrate
Oh, wonderful.
the process. Yep.
You'll have to come and see us sometime. Bring the camera. It's quite exciting. It's skillful. It's skillful. There are some shapes which are easier than others. And why do we spin rather than cast? I think this is real key. I have made lots of cast iron pans over the years. Back in the late 1980s and 1990s, everybody wanted cast. For lots of good reasons. Makes a great casserole, but it doesn't make a great frying pan. And it's really to do with the thickness. With cast iron, there's a sort of limit to how thin you can make things. Yeah. For most people, it's hard to cast under around 4 millimeters thick. So say 1/4 of an inch. That's really way too thick for a frying pan. You just have too much thermal mass. And if we spin, we can change the thickness. We can change the thickness of the sheet we use, but also in the spinning process, we can make things thinner and up to a degree thicker. And so a regular frying pan, like the ones I've just been waving to you, typically a couple of millimeters thick.
Mm-hmm.
If you want something like a wok, where you want the heat in very fast but out very fast, the stir frying will make it just over 1 millimeter thick. If you really want something heavy duty for, let's say, steak frying, we'll make it
Casseroles.
or casseroles. Well, sure. Let's say for our casseroles would be, say, 4 millimeters thick. You've got a Sejun down there, haven't you? We'll show you that in a minute. Will be 4 millimeters thick. But say a steak pan, we make 3 millimeters thick. So we've got to have all these choices and things which we can play with to make a really well-performing pan. And that performance is important to us, not just what it looks like, how it works. Right.
So what inspired you? How have you taken your inspiration from the iron masters of the past?
Well, locally, we are now talking to you from South Shropshire, which of course is the home of the Derby family with the Iron Masters in Coalbrookdale. And we've got a sort of slightly tenuous link here, which is why we inspired our logo. Where we first started making pans was on the site of a coal mine, in a hamlet called Netherton, in the village of Highley. And there is an apocryphal tale that the Iron Bridge had a model made. And actually, I do believe this as a designer, you always make a model first. You don't go and cast something the size of Iron Bridge without doing a good work. So I'm sure they had some drawings, and they probably made a model. And
You'd like to hope so, wouldn't you?
yeah, I hope so. Well, it's done pretty well. It has done pretty well. And, it's been up for a few hundred years now, and it's still standing, and it's standing there and proud. But apparently there was a quarter scale model made on the site of where our first works were. And that was part of the inspiration. But the Coalbrookdale Foundry, of course, was famous for not only making bridges, but actually wide ranges of cookware, which it sent throughout the empire and beyond. Lots of heavy cast pots. They were great products. And they were, one thing is they were able to work on open fires and points before people started having regular cookers in their homes. Of course, when hobs started to arrive, and we're really talking the late Victorian period, when you started to get things that are starting to look a bit more like a modern cooker, you then started to need a sort of different style of cookware, which is where our spun cookware comes in, where you're starting to put frying pans onto hobs, and you've got ovens, and then with gas you rapidly got grills and more controllable ovens, and so you needed a different style of cookware to go with that. So Coalbrookdale was the starting point, but actually the birth of the range cooker actually inspired what we do now.
I see. And was that an industry that had essentially gone then by the time you started in the area, or were there a few people hanging on?
That's a good question. Are there any people who make pans in Britain other than us? Only on a really small scale.
Gosh, I was just meaning
people who are
Shropshire.
doing the sort of assembly jobs where they're bringing in things from other places and screwing them together.
Right.
There's a bit of that going on. That's always happened, where you'll sort of bring a handle in from places like Turkey or Italy, and you'll screw that to a body which you might have got from somewhere else. But in terms of true pan makers in any kind of volume, I guess we're about it. Well, there isn't really anybody doing anything quite like us.
Blimey.
There is a bit of a British bakeware industry which we can be well proud of. There's actually some very good things in the bakeware world. But in terms of the sort of frying pan world of stuff that's truly made in Britain from start to finish, I think we're about it.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. we don't feel we don't feel beleaguered, though. Honestly, it's not
Good.
Actually, we don't feel like we're an endangered species. In fact, it was much harder 15, 20 years ago than it was now. Because actually, 15 or 20 years ago, when Sue walked into a small cook shop and said, "Hey, we've got a British-made frying pan," firstly, people didn't believe her. And secondly, like, why would you do that? Actually, now it's much easier because a few people have heard of us, which is nice. And because of the story behind our interest in the kind of pan we make, I think we've got a more receptive audience. As people become more interested in their food and their food quality, naturally it becomes easier to communicate that. But if you've spent a lot of time looking for good food, you're interested in what you're putting that food onto. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you're aware, but one of the things that makes Netherton, what we say, special, is the fact that we don't use any PTFEs, PFOAs, forever chemicals, paints. Our pans they come to you seasoned. And that's coated with a baked-on layer of organic flax oil. And that's a very old idea. We didn't invent it. It's been around certainly for a couple of hundred years, very popular in North America and Scandinavia, but was used in Britain. But it's a safe, clean, reliable way of protecting the pan and you. Okay,
Sure.
so your food is on a surface that you can trust. And I think that's probably one of the most single important things at the moment of why our pans are well received by people.
Yes. And I guess that's one of the things, isn't it? That people maybe have been reticent about buying iron pans in the past because it's the care, it's how you look after them. I guess there's this misconception that they're going to go rusty. I mean, you can't put them in the dishwasher, but I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. But so what advice would you give to people who are maybe going, oh, I don't know, it sounds great, but I'm not sure about the care and upkeep of a spun iron pan?
Well, I always tell people that the best way to look after them is just use them. Use them every day, use them regularly, because the more you use them, the better they get. I mean, you've both got some of our stuff, so you can back that up.
Absolutely.
Don't be scared of them. Don't keep them for best, as one chef told me he did. He's got it hanging in his kitchen and he just looks at it. And I think that's just definition of madness, actually.
Especially from a chef.
Yes.
Very odd.
What is wrong with you?
I think a lot of the problem comes from the preconceptions people have about cast iron, because originally cast iron came in. You often, in a restaurant, you give the new pan to the kitchen porter, and they'd sit outside the back step with rock salt, sand, onion skins and potato skins, and rub it for a couple of days to clean the iron up and get a surface ready for seasoning. They're putting that first layer onto it, and people would choose all sorts of things. And in Britain, it always seemed to be pork fat. It was a bit messy. I mean, we don't think very long lasting. In other parts of the world, often, for example, in China, they'd use groundnut oil, peanut oil, and that's actually pretty good. That's not bad. That's not bad. I mean, we don't use it because we like to use local materials, and there's not so many peanuts in Shropshire. But actually, we think flax is better. Flax is the hardest. And I think there are lots of sort of stories about cast iron where, and we hear them all the time, where the moment you use it, you must cover it in oil. Well, that's not true. You need to do it every time. Well, that's not true. As Sue was saying, it's using it every time. And the only thing that we would recommend, apart from cooking in your pan and cooking regularly, is after use, once you've washed it, which in most cases is under a hot tap with a nylon brush. We're not that bothered. If you want to use a bit of detergent, that's fine. It's not going to kill the pan. But the most important thing is after you've washed it, put it back on the heat for a short period of time so it's thoroughly dry. 30 seconds.
If you've been baking, put it back in the water.
Yeah, that's what I tend to do when I've used mine.
And what you must never do is just put oil on it afterwards. Now that softens the coat. That softens the seasoning coating, and it's messy and dirty, and it's just not necessary. It's a negative thing. I think. Well, you guys are the historians. You can probably tell me this, but I suspect it really comes around from when people lived in cold, damp houses, and they weren't probably worried about rust, and so they cover everything up with it. But actually, that's the worst thing that you can do from our point of view. It's wash it, dry it thoroughly, put it back on the heat so it's nice and warm, hang it up, okay, and don't forget about it. We occasionally see people who do that. I've left my cookware in my garage for the last 6 years. What do I do? Well, we can restore it for you. That is, but don't do that. Use it every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, I use mine all the time. Do you know what? I've not even thought about the upkeep of them.
No, I haven't.
Just cinch,
Yeah.
It's not. It really isn't a big deal. I mean, I think this is actually why the professional world's important to us, because actually they're not keen on hard work really, because they've got other things to do. And so that professional world of people who use our pans every day, they're very important to us actually.
Yeah, I mean, I first learned about cast iron cookware when I lived in North America myself, and when I moved back, I very much kind of left that behind because I incorrectly thought, well, we don't really have that kind of culture anymore. So I spent quite a lot of money on non-stick omelette pans and things like that, thinking, well, cast iron's fair enough, but when you're wanting to flip your pancake day crepe with a cast iron skillet, big forearms like Popeye, to be able to do it. So I just assumed, oh, well, it's fine for making a casserole, but that's about it. But then it wasn't too long before I discovered Netherton Foundry and realised that, okay, there are other ways you can make iron cookware, make them easy to and light to use.
I think the other advantage is it's designed to last and last. It lasts some more. Whereas if you've got a coated pan, it's going to come off and eventually you're going to throw that pan away. These are designed to be handed down, not thrown out.
I mean, there is a bonus that has cropped up over the last few years, and it's the growth of induction hobs. Now, we didn't invent this, of course. The iron that we use is phenomenally magnetic, and it happens to work brilliantly on induction pans. As I say, it wasn't intentional. It's just the way it comes. And say compared to, say, stainless steel, it's got much better performance across a wide range of settings. So you get all those kind of low simmers that you sometimes struggle with with the kind of cleverer composite pans. Are very simple iron construction works just brilliantly on that. And that's proved to be quite important in places like Holland, where it's almost impossible to buy a gas hob now. You have to have induction. Lots of places, induction makes sense. And so consequently, a whole new range of people have discovered us because they're looking for an induction solution. Yeah. And in fact, our very first wok was designed for a professional kitchen. Somebody was cooking Japanese style food on an induction hob, and that was something like 15 years ago. So we've been doing that for quite a while. So it's an important part of our life is the clever world of induction hobs.
Yeah.
So what's
induction hobs?
Sorry, Sam.
I was going to say, what's your most popular pan?
Oh, that's quite easy, that one, isn't it? I have one here. It's sort of our favourite, I think, because it's a bit what Netherton is known for. That's a prospector pan. That's a big one. That's a prospector casserole. But it's a sort of, why is it our favourite? It's our favourite because everybody else's favourite because they buy it from. But actually, it's versatility. It's got this frying pan. You put it under the grill, put a lid on, it becomes casserole, and you can serve it to the table.
Like Diana Henry says.
Yeah.
Of course. That's a fabulous book.
It is a wonderful book. And we're not at all biased.
Of course not.
But actually, Diana rang us up with, I really didn't think we needed a lid for that particular size pan. And Diana rang me up to disagree with me and say that she needed a lid. All right. And so we made her a lid. And I think she still got the very first.
I think she probably has. I actually drove down to London and delivered it to the doorstep.
You know what? I have to admit, I haven't got a lid for mine, but I might have to get one because I do. There are occasions where I'm like, this is a perfect pan to cook, say, a casserole style dish in that you start on the hob. And then I'm always like, oh, now I've got to transfer it into something else. So it would be a lid, I think. I'm in agreement with Diana. I think.
Lids are a funny thing, actually. We're quite keen on only buy what you need. Don't have too much. Don't necessarily buy sets. Buy one, buy that, mix and match. So things like lids, we sell separately. So if you decide in a year's time, I want a lid, have a lid then. So if you went to the trouble to look at our website, you'd find there's pages and pages of all those bits and pieces where we'll sell you one screw or a lid or a handle. That's partly because it's one of my frustrations in life of buying something that you can't then repair or add to. And so, and if you can't find it on the website, ring us up and we'll make it. So you can carry on use. Long use is important for us. The idea of somebody buying one of our pans and throwing away after 18 months would be painful.
No,
I really,
yeah.
Apparently, that's the average life of a frying pan.
I guess if you're buying a cheap one that's being used fairly frequently, I can see that would be the case. Yeah, because the handles fall off.
18 months is a new one, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, yeah. Well, if it's quality, it should last forever, as you say. But didn't your chef's pan recently win an award?
It did. It did. A slightly different shape. There we go.
That's what I call a frying pan.
It is.
Yes.
We call it a chef's pan. It's quite deep, and I guess it's a chef's pan because you can keep adding and adding things to it.
Yeah.
Yes, it's almost a
This
saute.
lovely
isn't it?
curved profile as well. So it's, if you really must show off and start, tossing your food around in that chefy type of way, it's perfect profile for that.
And I must say, the Guardian, they did a phenomenal amount of research. They tested it for 3 or 4 months. It wasn't one of these, we'll have a quick look at it and so on. It was, so we're rather proud of that. But it's a nice shaped pan. And it's one of those ones where the range is sort of grown. We make little ones and we make enormous ones and slightly deeper in the same shape. So that's rapidly growing in popularity.
Fantastic. Hey, one thing that seems to be growing in popularity, and I have to admit, I was pleased that you sold them, but I was surprised. The croustade makers, where you dip. Oh, you got it with you. They keep popping
Every
up on.
kitchen should have one.
Yeah, amazing.
Wow.
Well, I didn't know you did a fora.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
Yeah, if someone comes and says, please will you make me 500 croustades, you're not going to stand here with this one.
Fair.
How do you know about croustade irons then?
It's got cropped up quite a lot. I researched a book on the history of baking, and croustades came up. It's where we get the word custard from. But yeah, so I'm just absolutely amazed. Thought, oh, fantastic! I keep seeing them pop up on Great British Menu, which I always watch every year. A lot of people using your croustade.
Yeah, I think it's like Strictly. I think Great British Menu is going to have the croustade week. I think it's going to. Now, go on. Who asked for the first one?
The very first request came from a restaurant in Manchester, in fact. It came from Manor.
Oh yes.
Yes. And they said, we want to make croustades. And so there it was. And he explained what he wanted. Neil designed it. And then, like with everything else, he said, you've got to go home and test it. What? Really? But actually, I just really couldn't get my head around it at all. But it is such a mindful process, I think. The dip, dunk, dip, dip, dunk, dip, dip, dunk, quality control. We ate a lot, didn't we?
You did.
And the staff at work were intrigued as well. So they all went into work with lots of different fillings so they could try them. And it just went on from there.
Yes. Well, speaking as a food historian and traditional,
I mean, the first one was very much a bent coat hanger with a lump on the end, and then it got better and better. I think with each series, actually.
I think so, yes.
very good. Well, hey, it's time to wrap up. Lunch is almost finished, so it's time to get back to talks. But thank you very much for coming to
Come and see
about
us.
this. I would love to.
Sam?
Yes, me too. Definitely. Yeah.
All right, and come and see how we make a pan.
Yeah.
And I'm going
Thank
to.
you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.